Demon's Souls was the one game missing from my Soulsborne resume, and I'm not alone. The game cultivated a small but mighty fanbase upon release, but most players didn't discover Miyazaki's twisted imagination until the game's spiritual successor, Dark Souls. With an imminent remaster of Demon's Souls due on the PlayStation 5, I delved into the game that truly started a genre, but rarely gets the credit for it, to see if From Software's first stab at a Souls game is worth revisiting today. But can you, or would you, appreciate Demon's Souls if you didn't know what would come later? This is Hindsight, playing beloved classic games in 2020. When a sequel to anything outshines the popularity of the original, it changes how we view that original source. Great sequels give new depth to characters we thought we knew.
No, I am your father.
Stronger antagonists for an established hero, less exposition as the audience already knows this world, and a lot more of what made its source material work. That sequel can imbue a halo effect on the original, making us remember the source material as powerful, as relevant as the sequel was, even when it wasn't. This 2009 sleeper hit on the PlayStation 3 became an indie darling for its unique take on the fantasy genre, tight combat, untrustworthy NPCs.
That pit there is filled with treasure.
And its persistent multiplayer. The first thing you'll notice when booting up Demon's Souls is the multiplayer is no more. I doubt many would-be invaders were still online when Sony pulled the plug, but there's no denying PlayStation gave up supporting this game a long time ago. And unlike the hero you create, it's not coming back to life. Players didn't know what to make of this action RPG at first, and the game received a mixed reaction upon release.
Demon's Souls is one of the most rewarding, challenging games ever to hit the PS3. It may not be for everyone, but I still urge everyone to at least try it. It's one of the most rewarding gaming experiences I've had in recent memory.
I felt the best way to review Demon's Souls would be to simply describe my entire experience. So in conclusion, fuck you, Demon's Souls. A challenge is one thing, but trying to break down a fucking cement wall with your forehead isn't a challenge, it's grounds for getting fucking sectioned.
While critics recommended perseverance and lauded the game's innovative features and deep lore, they acknowledged players needed to endure frustration and be willing to die again. But what the game had to offer was worth the struggle, which meant most reviews focused on the game's difficulty. I remember the first time I heard of Demon's Souls, all I absorbed was that this game was not only hard, but if you die, it gets even harder. That's a reductive view of a design philosophy that's right at home next to Nintendo's greatest classics, including The Legend of Zelda's maze-like dungeons, Metroid rewarding your off-the-beaten-path exploration, or Castlevania's linear gauntlets capped off with a punishing boss fight, and none of those games feature generous checkpoints or hand-holding. Being difficult wasn't new, it was just out of style in 2009. As a veteran to the Souls series, I expected to waltz right into Boletaria and own the place. If you're one too, you're familiar with the combat system being taught to you through messages on the floor in the tutorial, and the nearly identical control scheme. The largest difference is the grass system instead of the Estus Flask, where you'll pick up consumable healing items through exploration and combat, similar to blood vials in Bloodborne, with two key differences. One, there are many varieties of grasses to heal HP and status effects, so you'll need to choose whether the fight you're in is worth using the rare grass with a better boost. Two, without an item cap, because grasses have no weight, and yes, all your inventory carries weight here, you could go into a tough area or boss fight with as many healing items as you can carry if you have the patience to grind for them. We will get to that grind later. At the end of the tutorial, you'll die to the Vanguard and wake up in the Nexus. This sent memories of Bloodborne rushing back to me, but unlike the Hunter stream, the Nexus is several stories tall and full of nooks for NPCs to hide in. After beating any boss, I'd poke around to meet new demon slayers tucked in alongside me, or to see how their stories were progressing. Similar to the undead in Dark Souls, it's not your body that keeps you alive in this world, it's your will to press on. If you lose that, a metaphor for giving up and quitting the game, your soul truly dies. The high count of NPCs stuck in the Nexus with their own motivations, challenges, and backstories really did make it feel alive, like a crossroad between worlds rather than just a spot to level up and trade in. Before you choose your own path or even level up, you have to tackle the first zone in Boletaria Castle. Most opponents are simple soldiers with tougher enemies denoted by their red eyes that you should probably leave alone for now. When you've traversed around the castle's outer walls, you'll open the gate to the Phalanx, the game's true first boss, mercifully a short walk from the Archstone, this game's equivalent of a bonfire, which you arrive from. While you can technically access all 5 levels after defeating the Phalanx, there's a clearly intended progression laid out from left to right, with Boletaria being the most accessible for new players, followed by the twisting mines of Stonefang Tunnel, the prison and catwalks in the Tower of Latria, the Shrine of Storms, and finally the Valley of Defilement. Bosses in Demon Souls are generally slower than some of FromSoft's most notorious level guardians, and many had puzzle elements to them rather than a straight-up fight. From locating the actual Fool's Idol amongst her clones, or taking out the Arbalest than the ankles of the gigantic Tower Knight. There were fewer 1v1 duels with a skilled opponent than I expected, and more clues to uncover and turn against your foe before they stomp on you. Anyone who isn't familiar with FromSoft's narrative style could be forgiven for writing off the goal of Demon Souls as, get out there and slay some demons. But digging in deeper, King Allant of Boletaria summoned the Old One, a powerful being who covered the land in fog and released an army of demons. Any humans slain by the demons lost their souls and are doomed to become the undead. A lone messenger escaped the fog to warn everyone, and adventurers have been arriving from neighboring lands to slay the demons, but if they don't fall in battle, they end up trapped with you in the Nexus. The Archstones act as gateways to the 5 worlds, where you fight said demons and collect their souls, hoping to reach the Old One released by King Allant and end its reign of terror. But reaching those demons requires you to explore the mazes of monsters between you and them, crescendoing in a climactic battle which opens up the next zone deeper into the level. While the levels themselves may not intersect, their maze-like paths are a joy to explore all the same, filled with set pieces I didn't realize were drawn upon in later games. So why did this niche darling, built on the design principles of blockbuster classics, never achieve the same mainstream success of its spiritual sequels? Later games had years worth of player data and feedback to help the dev team deliver a more refined sequel, knowing what worked their first time out and what turned players off. Demon Souls had no such crystal ball. Because of the game's focus on its strict combat system, the game suffers from issues with balance and pacing. After taking a few levels in Demon Souls, you'll notice the price of your next stat boost rising a lot faster than the souls earned from enemies, meaning that if you want to wield that new sword with the high stat requirement, you're going to do some serious grinding to get there. On the subject of consumable items, such as the equivalents of Homeward Bones and Humanity Sprites, they're a lot rarer and more expensive in this game, so be sure you really need to bank those souls before zapping yourself back to the Nexus. I'm sure they could have been obtained by winning fights in multiplayer, but certain enemies, like the armored bear bug in Stonefang Tunnel, aren't necessarily difficult, but it's sure to chip health away from for minutes at a time to progress through the tunnel. And they respawn every time you fall in battle, so if you die before the next Archstone, you've got to sink another few minutes into working their health bars back down yet again, leading to long runs back to the fog door. Like Sekiro, dying too often in a particular zone creates a persistent effect on that level. Instead of infecting NPCs with Dragon Rot, the enemies just get harder, although they drop better loot and more souls. The effect can be countered by progression or defeating the boss, which can be made easier using a rare consumable item to go into body form, this game's version of humanity, to gain extra HP. Dying to that boss in body form will send your world tendency back the other direction, so you may find yourself feeling like the game is just taunting you now. So with all that, can I recommend Demon Souls in 2020? Yes, if you're a Souls fan. The core gameplay loop you love from the Souls games is on full display here, and although some of the design choices can favor punishing the player for no discernible benefit. If you aren't a Souls fan, should this be your first game? No. Demon Souls is an excellent rough draft for what the series would become, and FromSoft should be commended for that. However, this iteration, on the PlayStation 3, is best enjoyed as a history lesson for Soulsborne veterans to come back to. But come back you should. Those who missed it the first time will get another chance when the remaster launches on PlayStation 5. I doubt anyone predicted this game would have a second chance after Demon Souls' middling initial release in Japan. Once the game launched in the United States, it built a cult following so fevered that Bandai Namco took notice and agreed to fund FromSoft's attempt at a sequel, Dark Souls, released in 2011. Maybe the takeaway here is that, like the NPCs in Demon Souls who encourage you not to give up, to persevere, to improve, to emerge even stronger, the team at FromSoft took their own advice, and a genre was born.
I never reviewed Dark Souls because other titles were out and my playtime was limited, and every time I sat down to it, it was like walking into a dark shed full of rakes, immediately treading on one and getting blatted in the face. So I left it for a while, but this week with plenty of free time in my schedule, I thought to myself, last chance, I'll just keep tanking the rakes and maybe I'll somehow become really psychotically into being rake-faced just in time to be prepared for the sequel. And I'll be blatted in the face with a rake if that isn't kind of what happened. I've been raking myself all week right up to bedtime. I'm at risk of going blind.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I'm new here and that really does help me fight the algorithm. There's a link to my Twitch channel in the description. I stream 3 times a week and I hope you stop by. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.